Hey everyone, this is Matt from endsickness.org. Today I'm going to talk about how excess in any form can contribute to your chronic illness symptoms. This was a big issue for me all of my life, and when I had a chronic illness, there was a lot of things that prevented me from healing. First, let me say I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. It's based on my personal experiences for informational and educational purposes only. So back to excess. What do I mean by excess? Okay, what I mean by excess is doing too much of anything, consuming too much of anything, thinking too much of anything. So let me first start on consuming too much of anything, okay? What I've seen with people is even when they start to eat the right foods and they start to go down that road, they're eating the right foods, then they consume these foods in excess because they're used to escaping through their food choices. So they may be consuming gluten, dairy, eggs, nuts and seeds in excess, processed foods, meat, all these things in excess. All these things are going to prevent you from getting better, okay? And you say, what is excess, Matt? What is excess when it comes to these foods? Well, when you're unwell, if you have a chronic illness, excess is more than once or twice a week with these things. You can't be having eggs every day and expect to get better. You can't be eating meat twice a day and expect to get better from chronic illness. This is excess. The only thing that you want to be, unrestrictive about really is your vegetables, your limited amounts of fruits, your potatoes, your rice, your beans, things like that. You want to have a moderate consumption of these things. Yeah, if anything, you can go overboard on a little bit on those, but even then, excess is the issue, right? If you eat too much fruit, if you have too many potatoes, if you have too much meat, all these things can make your digestive system overwhelmed, aggravate your immune system. If you have too much wheat, gluten, nuts, seeds, dairy, all these things can aggravate the immune system because they're hard to break down. So if you eat things, you consume things in excess, then you have a much higher probability of flaring up those chronic illness symptoms because the symptoms are due to your mast cells, and your mast cells are going to flare up. They're going to cause inflammation whenever there's something that's done that shocks them, okay, or triggers them. And they could be triggered rather easily if you're doing something that shocks them. Let's say if you ate a plate of food and it was normal serving, and then this time you ate two with more oil on it. Guess what? That shocks your immune system if you're triggered, and it could aggravate your symptoms. You can get muscle cramps later. You can start to feel like you didn't sleep well that night. It could be because of what you consume. The next thing is supplements, okay? Excessive amounts of supplements, okay? People were taking 10, 12 supplements and wondering why they're not getting better. It's because these supplements are in excess. There's too many. Sometimes there's 10 ingredients in a supplement, and you're taking 10 supplements. You could be taking 80 different ingredients every day, and people were taking these things saying, why am I not getting better? These supplements are supposed to help me, but the reality is this is excessive. You don't need 10 or 12 supplements to heal. You just need to eat the right foods. You need to be in a house that doesn't have mold or bacterial issues. You need to also be taking less supplements, just plant-derived supplements. You got to be meditating, doing deep breathing, changing your perspective. This is how you actually heal. So excess, what's another thing you'd be excessive with? Consuming things, okay, through your supplements, through your food. Another thing is your activities. So if you're overdoing things, you're out there and you're exercising for 45 minutes when you have a chronic illness, your heart's beating, you're wondering why you're drained the next day, you're overeating because you're exercising. These things all can aggravate your body. You got to realize that excess aggravates the mast cells. Excess aggravates the mast cells in any form. It's shocking the body. So if you're going to exercise, start off with 10, 12 minutes, then go up to 13, 14 minutes, and move your way up slowly towards something that your body is ready for. Excess is just anything that shocks your body is considered excess. You want to gradually increase the amount of what you're doing. So we talked about consuming, we talked about what we're doing, okay? Let's say the last part, let's talk about what we're thinking. If we're excessively focusing on certain things, like I'm excessively focusing on my health and trying to improve my health. I'm excessively focused on being successful. I'm excessively focused on my business, this woman, acquiring material possessions. This level of excess in our thinking will cause illness. It'll cause us to have problems. So we want to be balanced, okay? We want to be thinking about our health, our marriage, our diet, our activity level, our family. We got to be thinking about everything. We can't just be hyper focused on one thing, because what happens is excess in that area will compromise the other areas in your life, which will lead more stress, and then that will aggravate your mast cells. It'll aggravate your mast cells. So thanks for watching, everybody. Your mast cells, remember, are the origin of all these chronic illness symptoms. And when you do something excessive, it shocks them. It puts them into a state of shock. This has them secrete inflammatory molecules, things like histamine, cytokines, things like that aggravate the body, that activate the neurological system. It's the last thing you want. So thanks for watching, everybody. Go to my website, endsickness.org. I got hundreds of articles, hundreds of videos on there, and hope to see you again soon.